Welcome to the Hopenning, the place where hope is happening, with your hosts Fran Cadron and Marina Theron-Monnery. For more information about Fran and Marina, or to apply to be a guest on the show, please go to our website www.hopenning.com. The Hopenning is for informal purposes only and is based on the research of your hosts, Fran and Marina. They, as well as their guests, are not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from this podcast, which is not intended to replace any professional medical advice or care by medical professionals you are currently utilizing. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us at the Hopenning today. This is episode number 91, and I am here with my lovely friend, Fran. I'm Marina, and today we are discussing a very important topic to my heart, and it is the importance to not take other people's actions, reactions, words, and attitudes towards you personally. So, here we go.
Very close to my heart too, as you can see, Marina. I get told this often by friends, by family, by my children, and so I am really grateful that this is the subject that we are talking about now that we're going into the Christmas season, where there will be a lot of opportunity to take things personally.
I think Marina, there is always a lot of opportunity to take things personally.
So, what is your experience with this? Tell us about what you're thinking.
Well, Fran, it's something that I really needed to work on in my life because I took everything personally and I was a wreck. Everything. I cried so many tears because of other people's words and their actions. And it took me a long time to figure out. And this is something that really helped me. The book, The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. You go. We are prepared. I actually have the 4 agreements printed out. I cannot turn my camera around, but it's printed off on my wall as well. And I read it a lot and I quote it a lot. And all 4 of the agreements are phenomenal. Be impeccable with your word. The second one, what we're talking about today, don't take anything personally. The third one that I think is also very important is don't make assumptions. And the fourth one is always do your best, but don't take anything personally. So just in the little tagline to this agreement, don't take anything personally, Don Miguel Ruiz says nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream. When you're immune to the opinions of others and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering. Let that sink in.
Why is it, Marina, that some of us, myself included, tend to go in that direction automatically? What do you think it's about? I have my own ideas, but what do you think it's about? Why you struggled with it for such a long time?
Well, I think, Fran, you and I had, over the last 2 years, we have discussed so many different topics, and a lot of it comes back to that child that's been injured, call it the inner child, or just literally the younger version of yourself. If somewhere in your life, your mind decided that you are not good enough, that becomes the mirror and your measurement. So if somebody then, and this is kind of paraphrasing from this book, if I walk down the street and you scream at me, Marina, or don't even know my name, point at me and say, you are so stupid. When I'm in that very broken situation, I will think, oh, that woman is clairvoyant. She knows how stupid I am. And the biggest reason is because I've already believed it. And now I take it personally and I cringe and I think to myself, oh my gosh, it's so obvious. And Don Miguel Ruiz calls it poison when we start to believe those things. And unfortunately, as a child specifically, a lot of things can happen around us. And if we don't understand it, let's say, for example, parents get divorced, you know, from the work you do, that kids immediately think, what did I do? It's my fault. And we do that with everything else. And then we make mistakes. And in the culture that I grew up in, we had to be perfect. Children were to be seen and not to be heard. And children had to make mom and dad look wonderful. Well, I failed. I failed miserably. I always did something. And then I would feel horrible about myself. And I remember I was in high school when one day a very popular boy jumped up from his desk at the moment I wanted to go put something in the garbage can. And he ran and he bumped right into me. And he screamed at the top of his lungs, "Get out of the way, Stinky." And I cringed. And I mean, as an adolescent girl, that's your fear. You fear that you will have body odors, that you will be different, that you will be rejected. And he called me Stinky. And I believed him. I cringed. I took it personally. Now, many, many decades later, I can look at that same situation and with compassion to him, because he must have been a really hurt person to say that. And it had nothing to do with me. So, what
It
is your
is.
experience?
I think growing up, how I did, there's my father blamed his bad attitude, his bad mood. His bad moods were always a result of the kids. And so around my dad, we walked on eggshells because if he's in a good mood, we're in a good mood. If he's in a bad mood, we're trying to fix that bad mood, because when he was in a bad mood, it was scary. For me, it was very scary. And I think not all of the kids were like that. I was extremely sensitive to my dad's bad moods. And so I would do everything I could to fix it. But I had other siblings that could look at that and say, it's his stuff. And yet we're in the same house. We're raised by the same people. My parents raised us all, I think, similarly, as much as possible. And yet some of us took it to heart, really took it to heart. And the other ones would fight back, or, they would just act differently. So I'm that small child who, when dad is in a bad mood, I tried to fix it, or I would hide. The fight, flee,
Yeah,
fawn, and freeze.
right,
I would
right.
flee. I would be under the table, or I would be hiding behind my mom, or
Mhm.
I would be doing whatever until I got old enough to try to fix his bad mood in whatever way I could, because it was difficult for me to be around someone who's yelling and screaming and throwing a fit as an adult, right?
Yeah.
And of course, he would blame it on the kids. Whatever his bad mood was, he would blame it on us. But good moods did not get blamed on us, which is interesting in itself. So, yes, to not take things personally is difficult because it was told to us repeatedly, repeatedly, repeatedly that I was the cause of
Yeah.
his um, bad mood. So I
Yes.
grew up believing
Yeah.
it.
No, was a similar situation in my childhood, and you do take it personally. You do try to think what did I do wrong? How can I fix it? And you become vigilant because you are always on the lookout for those first warning signs of when is the mood going to be bad, and you brace yourself and in a sense numb yourself to know, okay, is there anything I can do to prevent it now? So I would go and, oh, I want to give you a hug, and lots of times that didn't even help, but I can so relate to that. But it stretches, I think, far beyond just childhood, and it may start there, Fran. So from your clients, if you think today of clients that come to you and who still today take everything personally and it's crippling them, what is happening with that for you?
So often it's if it didn't happen in their house of origin, uh, it's more often playground when they were kids on the playground
Mm-hmm.
or in the classroom or as yourself, a teenager experiencing something, trying to fit in and not, and somebody telling you that it's because of your clothes, it's because of your hair, it's because of, for whatever reason, you're not going to belong in the group. And so, whatever excuse they give, that's what you believe is the reason that you do not belong in this peer group of whatever origin it is. And so, when my clients come to me with that feeling of not being good enough, not being accepted, not belonging, somehow different, it often stems from childhood school-based issues or young teen issues as well. Just not quite good enough ever to fit into the group that they want to be in, that they want to be rubbing shoulders with the popular kids or the smart kids or the cool kids or whichever group that they think they would want to fit in with. And knowing what we know now after doing this for as long as we have, I look back and I think about my own kids, and I think about the kids that I taught at school and kids that are walking by on the street and all of the rest of that, and think they're feeling that right now. They are feeling that sense that they're not good enough. And so they're going to try harder in some way to be finally good enough. And maybe they will never get there. And so there's a potential for them to turn to drugs and alcohol and other addictions that will numb that feeling somehow.
It's interesting you say that because I've had a few clients who have completely given up on putting any effort into to resolve things in their lives. And when you get to that point, they get to a stage in their lives where the thought kicked in, why bother?
Mm.
Because nothing they did ever worked. So it's why bother? And it's then to help them through that. Because I think as children, we believe that it's our jobs to make things better for mom and dad. And especially when there's a kind of a messaging that if things are going wrong, it's your fault. And then you just start to think, but what can I do to make this better? And when there's nothing that you can do, because it's really never been about you, you do get to a point of why bother. And some people definitely would go into drugs and alcohol and other things just to completely, because why bother? They might as well do whatever they want, because when they try to be good, they're still not seen and they still get blamed.
Mhm. The numbing effect, right? I don't want to feel that feeling anymore.
Yeah,
I don't want to
yeah.
feel like I don't belong. So let's just numb it out and just go with whatever it is that helps me to feel better at this time.
Mhm.
And then, of course, there's that snowball effect. It starts small, just like a snowball always does. starts really small, but as you roll the snowball more and more and more, it collects more of the snow, and it doesn't have to go as far to really get big, a big issue. So, we've seen it as well where people can't hold down a job because they're unable to see that their actions also are inappropriate at the time, and it doesn't matter if you're given if you're given more and more chances to prove yourself. That attitude of, of I don't care anyway, it doesn't
Mhm.
matter. It follows you. It follows you into your adulthood, and maybe with relationships, continual relationships that break down, and so moving from one romantic relationship to the next, to the next, to the next, rather than staying there and working, doing your best to work through it in whatever way you need to, just closing the door and moving on to the next one, which for a while it feels great, but it never really does, because you and I both know that the lesson continues to come up until we face it and work through it and get better at the lesson, which really is not taking things personally.
Yeah.
But Marina, how do we do it? Like if we were raised under the belief that the things that we do were causing, you know, I mean, I used to call it, we've got this super small self-esteem, terribly small self-esteem, but huge ego, where we certainly believe that we are the center. We are the center of everybody's mood. We created this mood, whatever, and yet our self-esteem it's
That's called
non-existent.
narcissism.
Yeah, exactly. So what what I know what we do, but
Mhm.
can you explain how RTT is, it's kind of a miracle what it does, but can you explain?
But Fran, in rapid transformational therapy, as you know, we do go look. So if somebody comes to me and say, I'm a nervous wreck. I always have anxiety. I struggle with relationships. I struggle with substance abuse. One of those things, all of those things, it doesn't matter. And you start to look at what caused it. And you see within a session and you look in the past that at some point they started to take things personally. And you hear stories about um, dad was always angry, blamed me for it, or mom never gave me attention, she was too busy, and I mean the list can go on and on and on. It's sometimes difficult for me on the spot to just pinpoint one example because there are so many. But once you understand where that came from, and with that, with what we do is have gems like this that we can read to our clients and say, okay, if you can adopt this new habit to not take anything personally, you can make a huge difference in your life. And then always there is the but how. So we make this amazing recording for our clients. And in that recording, we would put things in that are along the lines that you are enough. You are wonderful just the way you are. And I always use analogies. And one of my favorite ones is, can you become like a lighthouse where you get to know who you are? You really fall in love with who you are. That newborn baby that came into the life, not the girl at 6 years old who already have been through too much, not the teenager who's struggling to fit in, not the child who heard from the family how stupid she was and believing it, but the one who came in on a clean slate. Can you find that within yourself? Can you remember who you came into this life to be and spend some time and build that again and believe it again and feel it and fall in love with that little baby with the whole world in front of her? Can you do that? And then really work hard on building those qualities, the love, the innocence, the joyful life, the happiness to be here, whatever it can be. And start to see every time you feel attached to one of that, it's that light high up there in the lighthouse that is now shining brightly. And that is so important. And every day you fuel that light to make sure it's shining brightly. And when you feel that, when you become it, when you practice it, and you suddenly look down and you see the kid that called you stinky, or you saw the dad that always screamed, it was never about you. They would still say that. They would still find a reason to do that. But it's never been about you. They are just like the waves hitting this lighthouse over and over again, or the rain, or the storm, or the mist, fog, and clouds. They can never really take that light away. So that's called rising above and understanding that you cannot change other people's actions, but you can change your own interpretation of it. So when you become that lighthouse and you rise above it, it looks so much different from up there. And one thing in my own life, and I start to practice that. So I can give you an example. I have a very good friend. I've had her for many, many years. And a few weeks ago, I haven't heard from her in a long time. Life is busy for both of us. I sent her a message and I said, I haven't seen you for a long time. Would you like to go for coffee? And normally she's like this, responding. And it's been a day, 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, a week. And now those old patterns came back and said, Marina, you did something to offend her. Maybe you said something, maybe I don't know. That negative thought, those negative thoughts can be so creative. And then I said, "Oh no, 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 no! I know this friendship, I know this friend, and I know myself. There is a reason." And finally, she messaged me and she said, "My cell phone is glitching up and I'm not getting my messages." And I responded, "Did you not get my response?" And then she was in the same situation. Why did Marina not respond? What's going on? So when she finally checked in on me, and you realize how silly those thoughts can be. So how about you, Fran? How do you help your clients?
So I always try to have them imagine themselves as a small child, always. And if they can, then they rescue their small child from whatever situation it is. And just to visualize their face, this beautiful little child's face, feeling so unwanted or not belonging or having to fix some adult in their misbehavior. And if they can't visualize themselves as that small child, to rescue them or to just take them and just cherish them, then I have them imagine their own child, and how that their own child's face would looks, and then they can kind of put the overlay, as you see your own child, imagine that as you, because it is you. You are that small child. You are that beautiful child that you love so much. Well, you were just as lovable. You were just as worthy, and you belonged just as much as your own child does. And in situations where the small child is being treated incorrectly, we do rescue them. We take them out of that situation and we rescue them and we take them somewhere safe. One of the things I've also started to do is, if it's me, and I'm starting to take things personally for whatever reason, not enough sleep. If I haven't had enough sleep, if I haven't had enough meditation, if I have been around people whose energy is off, and I'm not, because of not enough sleep, because of not enough meditation, because of not enough staying in stuff like this, then I will try to tell myself, Fran, what adventure is your mind going on? Because my mind will take me on whatever kind of adventure. You kind of mentioned that yourself, the creative the
Yeah.
creative mind. Well, our minds are super creative, and it all goes back to trying to protect us, right? So if we can, like with you and your friend, if you know what you did wrong, you can fix it. And that's where we tend to go to. If I just go through every single scenario possible, the last time I interacted with my friend, I can go back and I can say, oh, I'm sorry if I offended you then, I apologize, whatever. And we tend to do that, right? But like in your story, both of your communication was off. Somebody's email's not working. Somebody's phone is not working correctly. But I tried to tell my mind, what adventure are you taking me on this
Yeah.
time?
Yeah.
Because it really is an adventure, and it's a creative adventure. Well done, Fran. You could write a book on that,
Right.
right?
And
And
we
so
sometimes really believe that, right?
it's really good at making the rest, the mind is up
Right.
there somewhere, but it's really good at making the rest of us believe it. And so we do break out in the sweat, and our heart starts to pump faster, and all of those physiological reactions to what the mind, the adventure the mind is trying to
Mhm.
take us on.
Mhm.
So the anxiety, it is real. It's real. And I think that meditation is such an important key of helping us to remove ourselves away from the ideas that we are responsible for everything that happens around us. If once we get into a good meditation practice, there's that pause between, well, she hasn't gotten back to me in a week, I must have done something wrong, to automatically believing that I did do something wrong. There's
Mhm.
that pause. It's a cushion that says, "Come on, Fran, serious?
Yeah.
Our relationship is better than that. There's nothing wrong with this relationship.
Right.
I better
Exactly.
reach out to her again in another way."
And what I loved
So,
about that was when I finally said to myself, no, 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 I know myself and I know her and I know our friendship. It is as if I was so happy and settled in that intuition that I have, that now just shake it off. There's an explanation for this, instead of surrendering to it. And you can really drive yourself crazy by just thinking those things. Another example where I see this often is people doing this kind of work we do. Because in order for us to create clients, people need to know that we're there, whether you take out an advertisement or you go on social media, or you do what you and I do, having a podcast. It's intimidating. It's suddenly you are putting yourself out there to be judged. And so how do you deal with that?
it is super interesting. Before the pandemic, I didn't do any of this,
Mhm.
right? I mean, I had never recorded myself, and then I had to record myself for teaching because we went online.
Right.
And, I recorded myself, and then it was like, I don't look as bad as I think I do. I don't, I don't talk as bad as I think I do. I don't. And so there was that, I gave it was like all this time I had thought I wasn't good enough to be on a screen, and I'm just fine. I'm fine. And so that this podcast, as a result of the pandemic, because we started it during the pandemic, it wasn't as difficult for me. And all of that, taking pictures and handling negative feedback, it's a lot easier now than it would have been 3 years
Oh, for
ago.
sure. Yeah.
So there's growth, and we do grow by putting ourselves out there, and we become better at receiving the uh, negative feedback in whatever way, because it's like, okay, so there's two people or one person that doesn't like it. Well, there's 100 that do. So if you look at the big scheme of things, 99% is great
Mhm.
in anybody's world.
Right.
99% success rate, it's a solid A plus. So,
Yep.
and
So,
you know that 1%, oh well,
so if somebody does have a negative reaction to you, can you get yourself so far not to take it personally?
I think I'm a lot better at it
Yeah.
than I used to be. I think there's that part of me that goes, first of all, because of our childhood past, there's that brief moment that we would go, oh, maybe. And then that mind kicks in that
Mhm.
says, don't go there, friend.
Right.
Don't go there.
And it's so intertwined, like a big mesh of things between if I speak out, who will I offend? Who will judge me? Who would laugh at me? And then what if I do put myself out there and somebody comes and criticize me? So it's all those I want to say all the fear-based thoughts that goes through us. And so yeah, it's again like can you become the lighthouse even in this? Because I believe what you and I are doing are really just in service.
Right. And that is the ticket to think of it as every time we make a vlog, there is somebody that's watching that
Mhm.
vlog, and it is the exact thing they needed to
Absolutely.
hear at that time. And I put that out as, the light that's in all of us, connecting the light of the universe, whatever you want to call it, if it's God, the Holy Spirit, whatever whatever is higher than us, you know, we're just we're just being able to help out. We're helping out in whatever way that God, the universe, decides that we're best being used at this particular slice of time. And and to believe that and to really believe there, I'm a servant here. I'm doing the best I can, and it's good enough. The best I can is good enough.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm in 100% agreement of that. And so at the end of the day is to me, if that person does come and criticize me and not take me personally, one of the best tools that I think I have in my toolbox is to turn around and bless them.
Mhm.
Bless them because they are in pain. And if they are mean or nasty or questioning or pointing fingers, it is because they're in pain. It has nothing to do with me. And not everybody is going to understand me or you. And I trust that most people will have the grace to just walk away. But for those who don't and who need to feel to the need to express themselves is also in my mind to say, I hear you, I see you, I understand, I bless you, and just not let it in. Just keep going. Just keep going.
And even if we were to imagine, we have to be in the right heart space ourselves before we can send light to somebody else. So if there is someone who is critical, is condemning, is blaming, is whatever, and whether it's in the work that we do or in our personal lives, I think the most important thing is to get into our own heart space and to get our light strong, 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 and then send them light because we're not in charge of fixing them. That's not our job. But if we can send them light and goodness, blessings, however you want to call it, and just wish them well, wish them well. I think God takes care of the rest.
That's for sure. For sure. I also think that, it's new behavior. So, for example, if you drive down down the road in your car and somebody cut you off in traffic, the old me would have been not very kind. The new me, I have to catch myself. I don't want to be that person anymore. Does it mean that suddenly I flip a switch and now I'm this calm, wonderful, giving driver? Not completely. Better, but not completely. And to understand that it's all a process, it's all a journey. Yes, I'm doing this work. It doesn't mean I'm perfect at it, but I'm practicing it. So imagining myself when somebody does something that I would normally take personally, can I imagine that it's happening and what my reaction will be? How would I respond? How would I bless them? And literally just change and rehearse what I do. Like I'm an actor and I have to figure out how is this person who is really loving in every situation, even in driving. How does she think? How does she feel? How does she talk? And then rehearse it as if it's a stage play. And then go out on the road and practice that. And the same goes to not taking it personally. So when a family member calls me and tells me, oh, that person said that about you, I have this one. I have this one. I really now say, oh, I feel so sorry for them. Because I really do. Not because I'm sarcastic. Not because I think I'm better, because I'm not. But because I'm free. And I can even
And
love.
I like that. We are taught that as well, over and over, to rehearse it in our mind before we do it, whether it's an athletic, whatever, taking the shots for the basketball, rehearse it in our mind, or the swimming, but I think we forget to do that in the situations where we're learning how to not taking things personally. What a great idea. When you can't sleep at night and you're thinking, well, I don't know why I can't sleep, and all the static starts happening in your brain. What a wonderful thing to do is just go through some scenarios, the Christmas, what might happen during Christmas, and imagine a scenario and how you would handle it. Wow. I think that would be the best way to fall asleep possible.
And coming back again, other people are unpredictable. And we really cannot control how they act and how they do, but we have the power to change ourselves. I always use the example of Wayne Dyer, who said the most important sentence is to say, you are right about that. Because we do become defensive sometimes. We want to defend ourselves, but we want to believe, well, that person's wrong about me and that person said something to offend me. But all they are doing is to be true to themselves. And if you just want to diffuse that situation completely, in any situation, you just say, you're right about that. I was talking to a kid not long ago who said that my mom is quite argumentative about her academics. And I said, well, when your mom tells you to go do this, I wanted to say, Mom, you're right about that. And then say, can I have a break first? And see how there's no more this back and forth, yapping at each other. It's just, you're right about that. And it's calm. It's a very good sentence to know. I don't like confrontation. I don't like fighting. So you're right about that.
Yeah. Or even you may be right about that.
Yeah.
You may
True.
be
Yeah,
right.
I like that as well. Yeah.
And then it's giving them the opportunity to be right, um, in their mind or whatever, without having to have the confrontation. And it is true that people sometimes do bait you. Like they provide a situation where no answer is going to be the best answer.
Mhm.
Because for whatever reason, they're in a headspace where saying yes is going to be taken wrong or saying no is going to be taken wrong. So sometimes it is the best to just not answer and just to not react at all. Just no answer at all is sometimes the best answer. And
Exactly.
then you preserve their dignity and your dignity as well.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, great topic today. So, where is the hope in all of this?
Where's the hope? There's always hope for all of us. That is the truth. I was thinking as we were talking about, as my dad started getting dementia, and it was difficult to please him because of the headspace, his historical headspace, and plus the journey that he was on at that time. And so he could be very argumentative, and he could be very argumentative about situations that he made up in his head that didn't really happen, right? Because he had dementia by then, and it that wasn't. You couldn't say, "Dad, that didn't happen." You couldn't because that just made the situation worse. And a very, very good friend of mine who had worked with people, elderly with dementia, Alzheimer's, and that kind of thing, said to me, Fran, you don't have to agree with them. You don't have to disagree with them. You just have to be with them.
Right.
And so that's what I would do. I would just go, and I would give him a kiss.
Mm-hmm.
And it settled him. It just settled him because who knows why? We don't know how that all works. We don't know the intent that God has in that, but it worked
Yeah.
just to go
Mm.
and be with
Exactly.
them.
Exactly. Well, I think if you can work on and learn, in a sense, to master the ability to not take things personally, there would be a lot more hope available in your life. It's a
Yeah,
very peaceful place. And it all starts within us.
yeah, yeah.
Mm. Well, thank you for a wonderful discussion, as
Thank you,
usual.
Marina.
And thank you,
Yeah.
everybody, for tuning in.
Opening 91. Oh my goodness. It
We've
won't be
been
long
through a
until
lot in 2 years.
triple digits
Yes.
very
Oh,
soon.
very
Mhm.
soon. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, for watching. If you like what we do, please subscribe, and we will see you next time.